Kate and William designed a secret experiment for their 11-year-old son, George. Prince George would board a plane alone for the first time, disguised as a normal child and hiding his identity. But something unexpected happened. A flight attendant on the plane was so rude to George that the secret guards came close to intervening. George's response shocked everyone. You can watch the video to the end and share your thoughts in the comments about whether the flight attendant was treated fairly. On a cold morning in November 2024, Kate and William were discussing an important matter at Kensington Palace. 11-year-old Prince George was growing up, and as someone who would become king in the future, he needed to experience the real world. In their private study, sipping their tea, they were having a deep conversation about their children's future. This topic had actually been occupying their minds for months. George is constantly living behind a protective shield, said Kate, putting her teacup on the table. He never experiences the difficulties that a normal child faces. There are protocols at school, protocols outside. When will he encounter real people, real situations? William looked toward the window and remembered what Diana had told him. My mother worried about the same thing. She said they protected Harry and me too much, that this distanced us from the real world. Kate stood up and came to William's side. But we must change this situation. George will be king one day, but first he must learn to be human. Empathy, patience, coping with difficulties. He can't learn these from books. You're right, but there's also risk, William said carefully. We don't want to put him in danger. Security, media, protocol. We must think about everything. From this deep conversation, a special plan was born for George. They would ensure that the child traveled like a normal child by hiding his identity. This way, George would learn how to behave when encountering people without the royal shield. Maybe we can start with a small step, said Kate, a controlled but real experience. The details of the plan took shape over a week. Kate and William were very careful when explaining this special mission to George. The plan was as follows. George would fly to Manchester to visit universities, but this time like an ordinary child, in economy class and hiding his identity. This would be preparation for his future responsibilities. Kate made special searches in George's wardrobe. Royal children's clothes were usually branded and eye-catching. This time would be different. She chose clothes that an ordinary child would wear. Jeans from high street stores, a simple t-shirt and sneakers. No royal logos, no expensive accessories. But why do I have to dress like this? George asked, looking at himself in the mirror. The clothes were comfortable, but very different from the elegant style he was used to. Because sometimes we want people to know you not as a prince, but just as George, William said patiently. This will be very educational for you. How do people treat you in the real world? How do you react? Learning these things is very important. Kate added, Look, George, you will rule this country one day, but to truly understand people, you need to be among them. George asked curiously, So no one will know who I am? No, no one, said William. You'll just be George Smith, an ordinary schoolchild. This idea both excited and frightened George. For the first time, he would be this normal. The next day, Kate and William held a detailed meeting with the security team. No matter how educational this plan was, George's safety was more important than anything. Security Chief Matthews had analyzed the situation. This operation is very sensitive. There will be no visible protection next to George, but there will be secret guards on the same plane. What kind of guards? Kate asked anxiously. Agent Davis and Agent Thompson will sit in different places on the same plane. They will look like ordinary passengers. They will constantly watch George, but will not intervene. William was listening carefully. They won't intervene? What if there's a problem? Matthews explained. They will only intervene in case of physical danger. They won't get involved in any other situation. This is an opportunity to test George's character. We'll see how he handles those difficult moments. Kate was still worried. What if someone is very rude to him? What if they upset him? Then we'll see how George handles it, William said determinedly. This is very important for his future leadership skills. He must learn how to deal with difficulties as a king. Matthews continued. They won't make any eye contact with George during the flight. Radio communication will be minimal. George will try to handle things on his own. What about at the airport, Ma? Asked Kate. They'll follow him starting from check-in. George won't receive any privileges. He'll wait in normal queues, follow normal procedures. A risk analysis of this plan had also been made. Real physical danger was very low, but social challenges were highly likely. This was the real test, how George would cope with these social challenges. George was taken to Heathrow Airport by his father's private driver, but got out at the terminal entrance. From here on, it was entirely his responsibility. William and Kate were waiting anxiously at home. For the first time, the 11-year-old prince was walking alone among such a large crowd. Terminal 2 was very crowded, and George was both excited and anxious. Everywhere there were people rushing, passengers dragging suitcases, families shouting at their children. George remembered the instructions he had received from his mother. You'll find the check-in counter, show your ticket, and follow normal procedures. Although this seemed simple, it was a completely new experience for George. He faced his first challenge at the check-in queue. There was a long queue in front of him, and George didn't know where to go. Next to him, a family's child was crying, and on the other side, an elderly man was struggling with his suitcase. "Excuse me, should I go here for economy class?" George asked a nearby official. The official looked at George and saw an ordinary child. "Yes, son, you wait in this queue. Get your ticket ready." This ordinary treatment was strange for George, but also exciting. No one was calling him Your Highness, taking him through special doors, or giving him priority. While waiting in the queue, a woman next to him was talking loudly on the phone and had leaned toward George. George politely made some room, but didn't say anything. When he reached the check-in counter, the official Melissa asked for his ticket. "George Smith, Manchester?" she checked. "Yes, ma'am," George said politely. "Do you have luggage?" "No, just my hand luggage." Melissa gave him his boarding pass and said, "Don't get lost in the terminal. Your gate is B12. George thanked her and walked toward the security checkpoint. Each step brought him closer to normal life. After passing through security control, George sat down in the waiting lounge. Looking around, he saw very different people. Businessmen on trips, families going on vacation, students. Being among such diverse people was a completely new experience for George. At Kensington Palace or official events, he was always in similar social circles. A young woman sitting next to him was making a phone call. "Mom, the plane is delayed. I'll arrive in Manchester 2 hours late." As George listened to this ordinary family conversation, he began to wonder about normal people's daily lives. When boarding time came, George went to the back of the queue. Economy class passengers boarded last. It was the first time he had waited in such a queue. The elderly couple in front of him started to panic because they couldn't find their tickets. "Where did you put these tickets, Arthur?" the woman was shouting. While the couple was searching through their bags, George noticed that the tickets were in the woman's pocket. "Excuse me, aren't the tickets in your jacket pocket?" he said politely. The woman looked in her pocket and actually found the tickets. "Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart. What a smart child you are," she said. This small help had made George happy. He didn't need to be a prince to help people. When he boarded the plane, George noticed how different economy class was. The seats were narrow, the aisle was cramped, and it was very noisy. But this also gave him a new perspective. George found seat 23F by the window, just as he wanted. An elderly man was sitting next to him, looking very kind. The man had a thick book beside him. "Excuse me, I'm sitting in 23F, George said politely. The elderly man, Mr. Henderson, smiled. "Of course, son. Come and sit. Are you traveling alone?" "Yes, sir. I'm going to Manchester," George said, putting his bag in the overhead compartment. "You're very young to travel alone like this. Do I need to contact your family?" the man asked worriedly. George smiled. No, thank you, my family knows. I'm grown up now. This ordinary conversation was very new for George. No one was calling him Prince, giving him special treatment, or following protocol. He was just George, an ordinary 11-year-old child. Mr. Henderson showed his book. Do you like reading too? This is about English history. George's eyes lit up. Yes, I love it. I'm particularly interested in royal history. Ah, are you a little historian too? Very good. Do you follow the royal family closely? George answered carefully. Yes, I find their role in modern England very interesting. As the plane prepared for takeoff, George watched outside through the window. For the first time, he was flying as such an ordinary passenger, and this experience excited him. After the plane took off, service time came. Flight attendant Sarah Thompson, 35 years old, was experienced in her job, but sometimes had little patience. She was especially stressed and moody that day. George politely asked for water. Excuse me, could I have some water? Sarah looked at George and didn't like his tone. Water? Do you think this is a hotel? Wait a bit, we're serving everyone. George was surprised. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. But staying calm, he said, Okay, I'll wait. Half an hour later, as Sarah passed by George, she noticed that the child's foot was sticking out into the aisle. Hey, you! Pull your foot away from there. We're walking here, she spoke harshly. George apologized and pulled his foot back, but Sarah's aggressive attitudes continued. During meal service, George asked for a vegetarian meal. Sarah said, What's with all this pickiness? This plane isn't your home kitchen. You eat what's available. George remained calm again. No problem. If you don't give it, I'll stay hungry. Sarah interpreted George's silence as weakness and became even bolder. When the child asked for a cable to plug into the socket for phone charging, Sarah laughed. You're quite the technology enthusiast. Who pays your family's phone bill? You're asking for such expensive things. George said, I'm sorry. I don't want it then. The elderly man next to him was watching Sarah's behavior and getting uncomfortable. Madam, the child is politely asking for something, he intervened. Sarah replied, Please don't interfere. I know my job. Secret Guard Agent Davis on the same plane was watching Sarah's behavior. He spoke through his earpiece to the other guard. The flight attendant named Sarah is being very rude to Prince George. Should we intervene? Negative. William's order is clear. Only in case of physical danger. This is a test to see George's character. Agent Davis was worried, but the order was clear. During the plane's descent preparation, George wanted to use the restroom. When he asked Sarah for permission, she said, Now you think of it. We're preparing for landing. You can't go. George insisted, But it's really urgent. Sarah said, Urgent? You're creating such a big drama. If you can't hold it, then wait here, trying to embarrass George in front of everyone. This time George gave a different response. Standing up, he spoke in a very calm but determined voice. Madam, I only politely asked you for something. I haven't harmed anyone. I haven't bothered anyone. What is the reason for you treating me this way? George's demeanor at that moment truly reflected royal dignity. He hadn't raised his voice, but his authority was clear. Isn't your duty as a flight attendant to ensure passengers' comfort? I'm 11 years old, and I'm trying to be polite. I expect the same from you. Other passengers on the plane had heard this conversation and were looking at George with admiration. It was surprising for such a small child to speak so maturely. Sarah was angry. Are you lecturing me? Who are you? George's answer was like a slap. I'm George, and whatever my identity is, I deserve to be treated with respect. The plane landed in Manchester. As George headed toward the exit, he saw the protocol team that had come to meet him at the airport. Sarah was surprised to see this protocol team meeting George. She approached curiously and listened. Prince George, how was your flight? Asked the protocol chief. Sarah's ears rang. Prince George? Was this ordinarily dressed child really Prince George? Her legs began to tremble. She remembered everything that had happened that day. How had she treated the prince? Sarah immediately called her airline supervisor. "Sir, I made a mistake today. I was rude to a passenger on the plane, but I just learned that passenger was Prince George." The airline supervisor was shocked. "What did you say?" "You were rude to Prince George?" Sarah told everything. Her supervisor said, "Come to headquarters immediately. This is a very serious situation." The next day, the airline company held an emergency meeting. Sarah's behavior was examined, and she was definitively terminated. The airline CEO sent an official apology letter to Kensington Palace. Additionally, due to Sarah's lack of training, new courtesy training was started for all personnel. From that day on, Sarah couldn't find work at any airline. Her behavior had become known in the sector. When he returned home, George told his parents about his experience. "At first I was very upset," George said, "but then I understood that people can sometimes be in difficult situations. I got better results by staying calm and being kind." Kate looked at her son with pride. "You behaved wonderfully. Weren't you angry at all?" "Yes, I was angry, but I knew that shouting wouldn't be a solution," George said. Also, maybe that flight attendant was having a difficult day too. William was amazed by his son's maturity. "George, you acted like a real leader. You chose to earn respect instead of using power." This experience was very valuable for George. He had now learned how to relate to people even without royal protection. A few days later, the story leaked to the media. But the media praised George's behavior. Headlines read, "Prince George showed real leadership example at age 11. This incident became a turning point in George's education. Kate and William decided to give George more real-world experiences from then on, but each time they reminded him, "You're not just a prince, you're human first, and you must show respect to every human." George had learned this lesson very well. Prince George's experience on the plane showed what real royal dignity was: earning respect instead of using power, staying calm instead of shouting, being understanding instead of seeking revenge. Sarah losing her job was sad, but this was the consequence of her own behavior. George, on the other hand, continued to grow as an even stronger and more mature young man from that day on. See you in the next video.